What are you doing there? I'm sorry, mother-in-law. I need to use the restroom for a moment. Huh? What are you saying? The toilet is off limit. Do it outside like any other stranger. I was speechless in my mother-in-law's remark. It was the first time I had visited my in-law's house since getting married. I had planned to have a meal together with my husband, but instead, I was subjected to relentless harassment from my mother-in-law. I had known since our first meeting during the marriage introduction that she didn't hold me in high regard. However, I never expected such a pretty harassment. I reluctantly left my in-law's house and searched for a nearby restroom. My mother-in-law, who was watching from the window, had a satisfied smile on her face. Little did she know that she would soon find herself in a predicament. My name is Eileen, 28 years old. I recently got married and have been living happily with my husband. His name is Arden, 4 years older than me at 32. He works for a major company and is a talented individual who had already achieved a high position at a young age. We met at a house party. I didn't expect anything good to come out of it and reluctantly attended the party at a friend's invitation. But it was there that I met Arden, and that's how we ended up getting married. It just goes to show that we never know what life has in store. If asked whether there are any problems in our married life, the answer would be no. We usually spend peaceful days together as a couple, but I have a secret worry that I can't share with my husband. The worry is his mother. To put it simple, I'm not well liked by mother-in-law. I realized this on the day I first met her. When I visited his parents' house for a marriage introduction, something happened. Mom, Dad, this is Eileen. I'm thinking of marrying her. Arden introduced me to his parents. Since it was my first experience like this, I wanted to make a good impression, but due to nervous, the words wouldn't come out smoothly. My father-in-law kindly smiled as if he understood my situation. Nice to meet you, Eileen. Our son has always relied on you, hasn't he? No, it's the other way around. I'm the one who has been taken care of. No need to be so modest. You are such a lovely young lady, and Arden is lucky to have you. No, it's not like that. As I engaged in casual conversation with my father-in-law, my husband also showed a smile. But at the same time, I noticed that my mother-in-law's expression remained unchanged. When our eyes met, she forced a smile and gave me a small nod. In an excessively gentle voice, she approached me. I'm also delighted to have a charming girl like Irene as my daughter-in-law. Oh, please don't mention it, mother-in-law. Oh, by the way, could you help me make some coffee? I'd like to have a chat with Irene alone. Of course, I'll be glad to help. My husband told me to just sit down, but I couldn't afford to do that. In situations like this, it's important to be proactive and leave a good impression if possible. As I followed my mother-in-law to the kitchen, her expression turned cold as soon as we were alone. I felt even fear from the sudden change in her expression. I cautiously spoke to my mother-in-law, trying not to offend her. Mother-in-law? Don't call me mother-in-law so casually. It's creepy. Creepy? Let me tell you, I despise girls like you who pretend to be cute. I bet you deceived my son with your seduction, right? No, it's not true. I truly love Arden. How hypocritical. You're just after Arden because he works for a top company, aren't you? Please, mother-in-law, wait. It's really not like that. No matter how much I denied it, my mother-in-law didn't even attempt to listen to me. In the end, she made the coffee by herself, and I could only stand there motionless. It didn't take long for me to realize that I was called to the kitchen not to help, but to endure her sarcasm. After finishing the coffee preparation, she clearly stated her final words. Just so you know, I will never accept a woman like you as my daughter-in-law. Please, I beg you, please listen to me. Your words aren't worth listening to. I'll pretend to accept you in front of Arden, but remember, I will never truly accept you. Keep that in mind. With the coffee in hand, my mother-in-law returned to the living room. She had completely reverted to her previous self, as if nothing had happened. The conversation continued with trivial matters, but I couldn't focus at all, consumed by thoughts about my mother-in-law's behavior. On the way back home, while driving, Arden asked me with a slightly troubled expression, Irene, is something bothering you? No. Why? Now your face looks tense or something. Irene, you're always smiling, aren't you? Oh, sorry. I've been nervous all day, so I'm a little tired. I guess that makes sense. Sorry. Let's go home and take it easy today. On the way home, he bought me a cheeseburger, my favorite. He smiled and said, Let's eat together when you get back. And I desperately put on a smile too. It's not something I can easily say, that I was disliked by your mother. In the end, we got married without me being able to say anything to my husband. But the true hell started from there. After getting married, at Arden's request, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife. While doing housework with the TV on, my phone rang with a notification sound. Whose number is this? I wondered, staring at the screen for a few seconds. It wasn't an unknown number, so I decided to answer the call for now. Hello? Oh, hello, Irene. Yes. The caller on the other end was none other than my mother-in-law. As soon as I heard her voice, the previous fear resurfaced, choking me off. Seeing me like that, she sighed and spoke. I never thought you'd actually go through with the marriage. I thought if I said enough, you'd back off. I'm sorry, or I truly love Arden. Persistent, aren't you? I still want aesthetic. Becoming a housewife is just so you can do whatever you want with Arden's money, right? No, that's not true. I quit my job because Arden wanted me to be at home. How shameless. This gold-digging parasite. Why are you saying such things? Listen here. If you don't want me to say anything more to you, then break up with my son right away. Got it? My mother-in-law hung up the phone forcefully. In the midst of the dire tone, I was plagued by indescribable emotions. Why can't she understand? I'm not after money. I married Arden because I truly love him. I wanted to build a good relationship with my mother-in-law too, if possible. From my husband's stories and my mother-in-law's words and actions, I knew she doted on Arden. But to be so antagonistic toward me because of it. Since then, my mother-in-law started calling me frequently. It was always during the daytime on weekdays. In other words, when my husband was at work and I was alone at home, she would strike. Of course, I couldn't tell my husband about his mother's behavior, and I didn't know how to handle it, so I had no choice but to silently endure her sarcasm. It was a day nearing the end of January, with the new year already underway. My husband and I were heading to his parents' house, just the two of us. Originally, we were supposed to visit during the new year, but my husband caught a seasonal illness at his year-end party, and both of us ended up getting infected. As a result, we couldn't leave the house during the start of the years, and our planned visit was postponed. And today, finally, it would be our first visit to my in-law's house since we got married. Apparently, my father-in-law has been on a business trip since the day before yesterday and won't be back until tomorrow. So there would only be my mother-in-law at home. Just that fact alone made my steps feel heavy. As I pressed the intercom, my mother-in-law appeared with a beaming smile on her face. "Arden, Irene, welcome. I've been waiting for you." "Hello, mother-in-law." "It's been a while, Irene. We occasionally keep in touch, but it's always nice to meet in person, isn't it?" "Yes, it is." How hypocritical. Let me tell you, it's not just occasional contact from my mother-in-law. Almost every day, for about an hour during weekdays, she speaks sarcastically to me. She doesn't want my husband to know about it, so she continued to play the role of a good mother-in-law. We are planning to stay overnight today, but I'm already dreading what's to come. As I let out a small sigh, my mother-in-law turned to my husband and said, "Arden, sorry to bother you, but can I ask you to do some grocery shopping?" "Grocery shopping? Why?" "Well, I forgot to buy the ingredients for tonight's dinner, and I also forgot to pick up the cake I had reserved." "Seriously, you're forgetting too much. Are you alright, Mom?" "Well, we have a car, so I will go and buy them quickly." "Sorry to trouble you. Oh, Irene, please relax at home, okay?" She looked at me and smiled warmly. The smile wasn't pleasant. It seemed to contain something else. I knew that after followed my husband, she would say something again. With that thought in mind, reluctantly, I decided to stay behind in my in-law's house. I sat on the sofa, patiently waiting for my husband to return. As my mother-in-law headed toward the kitchen, I took the opportunity to get up and go to the bedroom. I had been shown the location of the bedroom by my husband before, so I relied on that memory and made my way to the washroom. Just as I was about to open the door to the bedroom, I sensed someone behind me. "Hey, what are you doing there?" Her posture was intimidating, and it was clear that she was not in a calm state. To avoid further agitating my mother-in-law's temperament, I responded politely without causing any trouble. "I'm sorry, mother-in-law. I got up without permission." "Answer my question. I asked you, what are you doing there?" I just wanted to use the restroom." "Huh? What are you talking about? The bathroom is off limits." "Please, wait a moment." "You should use a public restroom like any other stranger. It's unpleasant to have strangers using our bathroom, you know." My mother-in-law chuckled and observed my reaction. Faced with her, I felt a sudden wave of complete indifference. It was clear that trying to understand each other with her was futile. I finally realized that. I knew she didn't like me, but I never expected her to stoop to such childish harassment. It's impossible. There's no way I can build a family relationship, even a first one, with someone like her. I understand. With just those words, I left my in-law's house. However, I still wasn't familiar with the area, so I didn't know where the supermarket was. I could tolerate it for now, but I probably wouldn't be able to last until my husband returned. As I walked aimlessly through the town, I was relieved to see a train station ahead. I hurriedly entered the public restroom and relieved myself. After wiping my hands with a handkerchief, I stepped outside and heard a voice calling, "Eileen!" from somewhere. I looked around, but I couldn't see anyone I knew. Then I saw my father-in-law rushing toward me, saying, "Over here! Over here!" "Father-in-law, wait! Weren't you supposed to come back tomorrow?" "I finished my errand early. I heard Arden and the others were coming to house, so I hurried back." "It's been a while, hasn't it?" "I see, I didn't know. More importantly, why are you at the train station restroom, Eileen? You should have used ours." Well, you see." Seeing my hesitant response, my father-in-law seemed to have sensed something. His smile from earlier disappeared, and he looked at me with a serious expression. "Irene, I hope it's not the case, but did you do something?" "No, it's not like that." "Tell me honestly, even when you came for the marriage proposal and when you came back from the kitchen, your face was honestly gloomy. I've been worried all this time." "Father-in-law." Touched my father-in-law's kind words, I suddenly burst into tears. Ignoring the people around us, I cried out loud and continued to sob. My father-in-law sat down on a nearby bench, silently waiting for me to come down. Once I regained my composure, I confided in my father-in-law about all the harassment I had endured. My father-in-law listened without interrupting, but toward the end he couldn't hide his frustration. I finished telling him everything. "Eileen, let's put an end to it today." "Huh?" My father-in-law hailed a taxi and took me back to my in-law's house. My husband was already home, and he looked surprised to see me with my father-in-law. "Why is Eileen with Dad? And why is Dad here?" "I finished work earlier than planned, but that's not important now. We need to talk. It's something serious." At my father-in-law's call, everyone gathered in the living room. That's when he started shouting at my mother-in-law right off the bat. "Don't play dumb. Irene told me everything about the numerous harassment you've subjected her to." "Excuse me, what are you talking about? Harassment?" "Don't act innocent. Irene told me everything just now, all the things you've done to her." "I don't know what are you talking about. I haven't harassed her or anything." "Then why did Irene go out of her way to use the train station restroom?" "Well, it's because I was using the restroom at home." "We have 2 restrooms in our house, don't we? If Arden was out grocery shopping, one of them should have been available, right?" Confronted my father-in-law's question, my mother-in-law's expression twisted rapidly. "What's going on, Mom?" As my husband's face turned angry, my father-in-law continued. "It's exactly as I said. She has been constantly harassing Irene. What the hell? Pretending to be friendly with me while harassing my wife behind my back? Arden showed his anger. That's not true. Please listen to me. My mother-in-law pleaded desperately, but my husband had already made up his mind to ignore her and continued to give her the cold shoulder. Then, as if she had snapped it, my mother-in-law revealed her true nature and directed her anger toward me. It's all your fault. Everything is because of you. Yes, if you had married Arden in the first place, none of this would have happened. If I had a more adorable and obedient daughter-in-law, I wouldn't have resorted to harassment. My father and father-in-law were speechless at these unjustifiable explanations. It's a waste of time to continue any further. Realizing this, I spoke directly to my mother-in-law. If I were more adorable and obedient, is that so? Regardless of who the other person is, you'd have treated them the same way. You are just unhappy that I, who married your precious son, don't fit your liking. It doesn't matter who the other person is. Isn't that right? No, it's different. I despise women like you. Don't you realize that it's because of your immature behavior that we are in this situation now? Because of your ridiculous mindset, we are on the verge of losing our family. If you don't understand, then you should experience it firsthand. You should be abandoned by your family and live alone for the rest of your life. Upon hearing my words, my mother-in-law collapsed onto the floor, groaning in pain. No one reached out to help her, only casting disdainful glances. I'll take care of the rest. Afterward, my husband and I returned home without staying overnight at my in-laws. A few days later, my father-in-law informed me that the divorce had been finalized. Initially, my mother-in-law stubbornly resisted and caused a scene. Furthermore, as a housewife, she had apparently borrowed a large sum of money from my father-in-law. She was given two choices: repay the money immediately or get a divorce. With no income or savings, my mother-in-law ultimately chose divorce. Now, without a place to go, she seems to be working at a live-in factory job. But being in her mid-60s, it must be an extremely harsh life for her. However, this is all the result of her own actions. There is absolutely no room for leniency or compassion. On the other hand, with no more contact from my mother-in-law, peaceful days have returned for me. I regularly visit my in-law's house and even go on trips with my father-in-law and husband. Was it a coincidence or fate that I encountered my father-in-law at the station that day? Either way, I have nothing but gratitude for my father-in-law who believed in my words and took immediate action. I will never forget this gratitude in the future. To protect these happy days, I will continue to live to the fullest.